sure not keep his Defender of August. On the other hand, if you are Hosty here, you definitely keep the Owl in case there's an Undertaker, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Warrior, if it doesn't have Fiery War Axe, definitely needs this Owl to be able to deal with early game Undertakers. I would expect Hosty to mulligan away, get an Enchant Maiden here.
I agree. Two other choices, Iron Big Owl and Cruel Taskmaster, are providing an answer to some early games drops that can Warlock play. Like, in example, Leper Gnome, Taskmaster into Leper Gnome. It's one of the best things you can do against a zoo.
Yeah, definitely. And the Owl is also very good to silence the Rubian Eggs, because that will also set up a really good brawl. However, he's afraid of this turn 1 Undertaker right now. It can snowball out of control, therefore he has to use the Owl for that, unfortunately.
He doesn't have the Fury War Axe, so that's also a huge signal for Powder here. He can ignore the Owl. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't know that there's a Cruel Taskmaster, of course, which will finish the Void Walker, and now Powder kinda has to buff the Undertaker to kill off this Taskmaster so he won't be losing his Flame Imp. But there's an Annoyatron.
Yeah, Annoyatron really good right now. I mean, Abusive Sergeant will probably be used this turn as well. I would assume that the Undertaker is gonna kill off that Taskmaster right now. It's useless otherwise. And Annoyatron will protect the board from any sort of weapons like Deathbite or Fire
Exactly.
Warx.
Annoyatron is really annoying.
Yeah,
For Warrior is
and yeah, I mean, Hosty still has with this kind of board. However, there is a Nerubian Egg kind of protecting.
What do? You take the risk, you don't live tap and just put the... Oh, he would just play both 2-drops and then he would top deck Doomguard until 5.
Yeah, but you cannot really...
in front of your nose.
In hindsight, for sure, but definitely cannot fault Powder for that live tap. He needs more options for sure.
Oh, he's playing still Soulfire. That's interesting. I was thinking that every single Zulak player will change the Soulfire for a Dark Bomb.
Yeah, I mean, Soulfire is still in Zoo. It's still better, I think, than Dark Bomb, because Dark Bomb is a little bit too expensive. I've seen some players replace Soulfire with Power Overwhelming because they kind of do the same thing, and
but they can switch then to use Void Terrors with the X, right? If they're switching Soulfires to Power Overwhelmings, it opens quite a few possibilities. Now you have to use Brawl, and maybe the Egg will live after that. That's the best outcome here. That's 20%. Chance of leaving the Egg on the table.
Worst possible outcome.
Yeah, that would be disastrous.
Oh, it is the Abusive Sergeant, so that's an okay result for the Brawl. That was kind of to be expected. That was the standard outcome.
Still, the Zoo has at least 6 damage. Oh man, that's 7 damage to face, and well, the board...
The power of the Nerubian Egg right there.
Deathbite. Little too late. Shield Maiden will come to the rescue here, but that might be not enough. That's 2 points or 1 point of lethal. Yeah, but why didn't you kill the Leper Gnome here?
It doesn't really matter, to be fair.
Well, it does matter. It's 2 damage that...
True, but it would have died eventually anyway. It doesn't matter because, as you can see, Hosty doesn't have anything to do with this sort of aggression, and his Mighty Warrior falls in the first game already.
True, true. Well, the Brawl was not enough. He didn't draw the Fury Warx, and that was the crucial thing. But also, the Fury Warx was kinda redundant against the Annoyantrons.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Annoyantron seems like it's a very strong addition. I feel like, in general, when the cards compared in a vacuum, for example, Annoyantron compared to a Haunted Creeper, I feel that often enough Annoyantron outshines the Creeper. If you don't compare it with other synergies, but yeah, if you compare the cards just 1 versus 1,
well,
then
against
Annoyantron
decks that
actually
are
is
playing
stronger.
weapons, for sure, Haunted Creeper is worse than Annoyantron, for sure. So I agree with you here, and this might be the change that was done by Powder here. I'm wondering if he's playing some other mech cards that have some like synergy. Well, maybe if he would play Tinkertown Technicians, then he would have to use also other mechs, but we didn't see any.
Could we see maybe Hobgoblin again?
Maybe.
Because we've seen Creeper.
Well,
and
we can check that. If there's any other Hobgoblins.
maybe he just
Nope.
doesn't. Maybe he just doesn't
That's
play.
all.
Maybe he just doesn't play Creeper, and he plays Annoyantron instead.
I think that was the change that Powder made to squeeze the Annoyantrons. And now we'll see the Rogue. From
Finally.
Hosty. Yes.
Finally a rogue, and I'm really excited to see that one. I mean,
Well-
I have absolutely no idea what kind of deck Hosty is gonna play as rogue. But,
If this is a
definitely
kind of
gonna
a
be exciting.
rogue, I mean a tempo rogue. Some time ago, when there was Dreamhack Bucharest and Zoe was one of the best decks, tempo rogue was a counter to Zoo, and that was the main idea of tempo rogue. But with addition of death rattle creatures that are spawning more creatures when they are dying, and also cards like Annoyantron, tempo rogue cannot well, it lost some power for sure.
Yeah, what I found out when theory crafting about Rogue is that Blade Flurry has become a very powerful card nowadays, because Rogue got 2 cards additionally to Deadly Poison that can buff weapons now. It got the
Barber.
the Auto Barber that
Yep.
buffs the weapon by 1, and the Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil, or
Yep.
how the card is called, that buffs the weapon by 3. So, and there we see it actually. Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil in the opening hand of Hosty. He's got a mulligan at the way,
Of course, it's not a good card to have.
but
in
we
your
see
opening hand.
it in the deck, and there we see like the Blade Flurry as well.
Okay, so that's kind of like a Miracle Rogue from when we are watching the Arsenal. So maybe it's a Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the Blade Flurry definitely got a huge boost in power, so it can clear boards very efficiently, and therefore a control type of rogue is definitely viable, I would say.
Oh, 2 pairs. 2 Leper Gnomes and 200 Creepers.
I feel like with Blade Flurry and Fan of Knives, the rogue in theory should not have a problem with this kind of zoo deck.
We'll see how that goes. Well, I think you have to use Shift here, just to dig for more answers. Well, it really depends on your deck, so maybe I'm wrong here. Hosty knows all the options that he can draw, so maybe he knows that he doesn't need anything right now.
Haunted Creeper getting into play for Powder gives him some resilience against AoE.
Eviscerate. Okay, so we are seeing, apart from the Tinker's Sharpening Oil, it's a standard Miracle Rogue list. Well, maybe not standard. Assassin's Blade wasn't a staple in every single Miracle Rogue, but it was seen for sure in those Miracle decks.
Yeah, it's more oriented around weapons, that's for sure. I mean, Assassin's Blade as well as the Sharp Sword Oil.
Sprint.
Sprint is also a very nice addition. It feels like Sprint is actually kind of alright now that Gadgetson got a decrease in power level, so maybe Sprint is the card draw of choice
instead
now.
of Gazettons.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, what do you think? Why Hosty opted to use Fan of Knives instead of Shiv. He has, well, apart from the Blade Flurry, he doesn't have any other AoE right now in his hand.
He just wants to be mana efficient, that's all, I guess.
Yeah, that 1 point of mana that he had to use in the third turn, right? Now he can squeeze an additional dagger this turn.
Oh, it's not looking good for Hosty, that's for sure.
He's already at 20 points of health, so which is, well, it's kinda still okay-ish, but we are seeing that there's 6 points of damage lurking just in Powder's hand, and he will, if he will top deck now at Doomguard at turn 5, it will be the second time that he actually would have. It's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean the Sludge Belcher will provide some sort of stability against this board, unless he decides to actually just improve his weapon right away.
Well, he plans to use the Blade Flurry next turn.
Yeah, but he really needs to get rid of those death rattles too. What's the best way of doing this? I guess the Belcher is fine. It will maybe ensure that the Creeper or something like that will run into it. So that
Wow,
he has
defensive
less
Argus
death
is
rattles on the board.
important. If Powder should not use the defensive Argus on the Hunted Creeper here.
He uses it on the Nerubinek. That might be even worse, because this sets up a really big Blade Flurry next turn.
You're right.
Oh, he's actually not sacrificing the egg though, so that's good for him. Yeah, wisely keeps the death rattles. Knows that a big Blade Flurry might be coming.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he can do.
At least he
Big
can
Blade
attack the
Flurry.
egg, so that's good for him.
Still 2 creatures will be left on board, so Hosty will be left on 9 HP points.
Yeah, but
This is really close.
imagine Powder didn't taunt up that egg.
Yeah,
Then he
That will be
would have
so.
been in a much better spot.
for sure. Still, it's at not a good position at all for Hosty here.
Yeah, Hosty is out of board clears. That's actually a turn where Fan of Knives would have mattered, like you said. He needs to find something good. SI7, man, that would have been useful
Some
a little
time
bit
ago.
earlier.
Yeah. Well, he has to use the dagger and kill one of the spiders, but that's still 5 points of damage incoming. Oh, that's lethal.
That is lethal indeed. Power overwhelming for the win.
So now Hosty is getting punished for not banning Warlock.
Yeah, I mean, Hosty did it in his match against Colento, if I recall correctly. Yeah, he actually
You
banned
mean
the Warlock
Powder?
against Colento.
Powder was playing against Colento.
Oh, wait, Hosty.
Hosty was playing against KitKats.
Yeah, against
And Hosty
KitKats.
won 3 times with his warrior, and Powder played against Colento and won, I think, with his paladin 3 times there, or 2 times.
Alright. Well, Hosty sure looks disappointed. I mean, he's 2-0 down, 0-2 down already. He needs to put all his faith into his final deck, which is
Druid.
Druid.
Yeah, that's his last resort, and Druid isn't a good choice against Zoo at all.
Yeah,
Druid struggles against heavy boards like Zoo, where you can just spam minions and you will not care at all at the swipes that are given there, because most of your minions have more than 1 HP, so the swipe most of the time will just kill 1 minion, and we didn't see. Well, maybe Hosty is actually playing a different type of Druid. Maybe he has Bloodmage Felnos, and it will matter a lot with swipe to kill off minions from Zoo side, but that's just a guessing game. We still have to wait to see the actual decks in action. But definitely it's not a good spot for Hosty here. He's he is not favored in this matchup at all.
I feel like the most important card in this matchup for Hosty will be Innervate.
Of course.
Innervating out the keeper is actually one of the best things you can do against Zoo. So
especially
that's
against
something
Flame
you'll be
Imps.
looking for.
Yeah. If Hosty can respond to an example, a turn 1 Flame Imp with a coin Innervate keeper, this can keep him in the game. But if Zoo just overruns Druid during the first 2-3 turns, when Druid just gathers his strength with cards like Wild Growth or just Hero Powering, that can be game right there.
Yeah,
during
I'm
the first
pretty
turns.
sure that Hosty also has to pray a little bit that Powder's draw will be a little bit bad. I mean, we've seen Zoo can struggle on bad draws. We've seen Hyped, for example, get a
Drawing
hand full
two
of 5
Doomguards
drops.
and Fell Reaver and Low Tap, but the problem is that Powder is actually also playing the Hunted Creepers. He uses both Hunted Creepers and Annoying Trolls.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to play Haunted Creeper because of Undertaker.
Okay, so
that's
there is an
relevant.
Innervate and a Wild Growth.
That really looks nice, but Spectral Knight is not necessarily what you need.
Especially
Root
that
of
you
the Claw would
don't
have
have
much
a
better.
you don't have a card to actually innovate on turn 2. So you have to use the Wild Growth here. And next turn is kinda awkward too. If you innervate, then you play a 5-drop, which means that Wild Growth wasn't necessary at all.
Yeah, Hosty needs that Keeper of the Grove right now. Doesn't get
Oh
it.
man, this looks bad.
Yeah. the
Now,
only way.
this is horrible. The Spectral Knight will be killed just by using the Power Overwhelming on the Leper Gnome.
That's right.
And then we'll see a Nerion Mecha maybe, or just Direwolf Alpha and go to face for a huge amount of damage. This looks terrible for Hosty.
Yeah, I don't see any way for Hosty to actually get back in this game. He needs a big taunter.
He is Ancient of
Stabilize a
War
little bit.
right now.
I doubt he runs Ancient of War. Root of the Claw would help, but only a little bit. And it only kills off like 2 minions.
Look,
And
it's 10-3 and Druid is already almost half dead. Soulfire, okay. So this is how many points of damage? 3, 6, 7, 11 points of damage. Or 12 points of damage if he opts to play Direwolf Alpha instead of Harvest Golem. And also I forgot about the Juggle, but it hits the Spectral Knight, so it doesn't really matter. Keeper of the Grove, too late to the party.
can silence the Undertaker, but that's about it. You'll need to use it to silence the Undertaker and then kill the Night Juggler with that Spectral Knight. Get the most damage off the board as possible, but it's still 3 damage remaining, plus 2 from the
That's
Direwolf
lethal.
Alpha, plus 4 from the Soulfire, that's exactly 9. So
He has
unless
to
the
hero
hero
power.
powers up, he will die.
Yep. He does the right decision, but he lacks any kind of counters. So next turn is crucial. Abusive Sergeant will end the game. Well,
Not
not really. Never mind. Not enough mana.
Everything is under control for Powder.
Second Keeper of the Grove. Does he have
those
Nope.
those keepers would have been useful on turn 4. Like on turn 4 it was necessary.
And turn 2.
I mean on turn 3 after Wild Growth it's turn 3, yeah. But still, I mean, a little bit bad draw for Hosty, not getting the right minions to innervate out, and also not getting the Keeper, which is the most important card. But obviously this is a bad matchup for the Druid. He wasn't expected to be the winner in this matchup, and he needed a lot of luck to actually be able to win this. Unfortunately for Hosty, this will be a 3-0 for Powder, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Powder making a strong appearance here, and this time this is what you get when you don't ban a Warlock. You just get overrun by Zoo.
Yeah, this is what happens sometimes.
Oh, look, a Dome Guard. Just to add the salt to the injury.
Alright,
Well,
Powder takes this game. 3-0
yeah.
for Powder. Very well played for sure.
That was 20 minutes. 20 minutes match.
Yeah?
Okay, so this was quite a really super fast game.